Amwins, we're not just placing risk. We're staying ahead of changes to keep clients prepared. We're not just plugging and placing. We are forging relationships that last. We're not just planning for today. We're planning for 150 years from now. Our care, foresight, and commitment to our clients means we are more than just a partner. We are on your team.
I'm State Representative Morgan Meyer, and I'm honored to serve on this year's host committee for New Friends, New Life's Men's Breakfast. As a husband and father of three, this organization's mission is near and dear to my heart. The fact is, Texas ranks among the top 3 states for human trafficking, and these crimes are happening every day, even here in Dallas. This issue has been one of my top priorities since I was first elected, and I'm going to continue working alongside New Friends, New Life to fight human trafficking and provide necessary support for survivors. New Friends, New Life has been a leading voice to raise awareness in our community and encouraging everyone to get involved. Let's maintain the urgency of this important issue. If we keep working together, we'll keep making a difference together. Thank you for your support of New Friends, New Life.
Welcome to the New Friends, New Life 2020 Men's Advocacy Group virtual event. Today we're going to hear from our special guest, Adam LaRoche. So tell your friends to watch, share, and engage with us on social media. Here's how you can invite your friends to a Facebook watch party now.
Good morning. I'm Tyler Klutz, and welcome to the third annual New Friends, New Life Men's Advocacy Group Breakfast. I know things look a little different this year, but we're happy to be able to continue to work virtually and hopefully invite more men into the conversation around sex trafficking and exploitation in our communities and what we can do to end it. I'm a proud member of the Men's Advocacy Group and honored to serve as this year's moderator. I challenge each of you watching to really engage in our conversation. A great advantage of our event being held virtually is that it's easy to share the MAG message on social media, and I urge you to share our event right now. Tell your network that you are watching and invite them to join you now. Leave a comment below, tag a friend, and let's spread the word that we are tackling this issue head on, and New Friends, New Life is here to help us join the fight in a constructive, impactful way. Another way to get involved is to give. Visit newfriendsnewlife.org/donate and select MAG Breakfast as your designation. You can also give through Venmo at Give2NFNL, and you can also purchase raffle tickets for $50 each until Tuesday, July 28th at noon to be entered into a drawing for some awesome raffle prizes. On behalf of the women, teens, and children served by New Friends, New Life, thank you for your support and attention. Now, let's hear from a few other MAG members on why they feel compelled to be involved.
Trafficking is real. It's in our world, our nation, and our community.
And when we took the bus tour with New Friends of Life and we drove around through the areas and saw 3 hotels that are within a 5-mile radius of my house, it was very concerning.
We're in these buses and you see people coming and going to the hotel rooms or into this office complex.
You know, we kind of think, well, maybe it's a spot here or there, but it's not. It's very pervasive in our community.
When I imagined girls that were my own daughter's age being affected by this, being bought and sold, it moved me to really want to take action.
So often we feel like women are taking the lead on this, but men can certainly get involved, and we should get involved.
Human trafficking is not a women's problem, it's a human problem.
Human trafficking starts and ends with men.
We're really pouring into our teen youth, especially young boys.
And trying to start young to make sure they understand, look, this is what real manhood is.
I told them that there's over 400 teens every night in Dallas that are trafficked. My 18-year-old, he couldn't believe it.
Conscious indifference or just being uninformed is not good enough, and in fact is a major part of the problem. Once I had Eloise, I realized that I couldn't guarantee that she wouldn't be a target. If you don't get involved to make sure that no one's a target, you can't even protect your own home.
Poor role models leave too many women broken on the streets of Dallas and their kids taken away. I've seen firsthand how New Friends, New Life can turn a messed up past like that into a very special lady and a great mother. I've also been blessed to mentor her high school son. MAG men have unique opportunities to make a positive difference.
This problem can be eradicated in our city, but it must be a total community commitment.
I was in a MAG board meeting recently where there were probably about 12 men around the table, and we were talking about what could we actually do. And there were different men around the room that came up with ideas, lawyers that would say this is the kind of legislation that we can go after, and people in the business community saying this is how we could get other businesses involved in the No Harm Network, and for me and other pastors in the room saying this is how we could get the church involved.
This is something that's going to change your life. This nation will be a better nation because you stepped up to represent those who cannot represent themselves. I can't think of a higher calling for you.
I stand for her.
I stand for her.
I stand for her.
Not our children, not our city.
Hello, and thank you for joining us today. As you just saw, I am passionate about the work of the New Friends, New Life Men's Advocacy Group. Our members are involved all throughout the community, and our advocacy affects legislation, corporate policy, and more. That is why I am proud to serve as this year's breakfast co-chair, along with my buddy Zeke.
That's right, Bill. I'm excited to co-chair this event because I have seen the impact this great organization has on the survivors of sex trafficking. But I have also felt the impact as a man in today's society. One of my favorite experiences has been teaming up with other MAG men for a Valentine's Day workshop with the New Friends, New Life members. We delivered roses and candy to each woman and interacted with them, all while we made Valentine's Day cards for our loved ones. There were lots of laughs and even a few happy tears.
It was a special evening indeed. MAG men are committed to being the change we want to see in our city by standing against trafficking. Join us by becoming a MAG member today.
Visit the New Friends, New Life website to get involved. And now, back to you, Tyler.
Thanks, Zeke and Bill. I also want to thank the generous sponsors who have made this event and our work possible. Thanks again for all of our sponsors. We appreciate your support. And to all of you watching, don't forget to purchase raffle tickets for $50 each through newfriendsnewlife.org between now and Tuesday, July 28th at noon for your chance to win. And now, a message from New Friends New Life CEO, Kim Robinson.
Thank you, Tyler. We're proud to be represented by you and the rest of our MAG men. It's so important that we all come together and realize that sex trafficking is not a women's issue. It's a human issue. And to eradicate sex trafficking and exploitation, it will take all of us coming together and effecting real societal change. New Friends, New Life is about restoration. We restore and empower formerly trafficked teen girls and sexually exploited women and their children. By providing access to education, job training, interim financial assistance, mental health, and spiritual support, we help these survivors overcome backgrounds of abuse, addiction, poverty, and limited opportunities. We stand for her so that she can stand for herself. The past few months and weeks have been challenging for us all. But imagine if you were a victim of trafficking during these uncertain times of crisis and turmoil. Imagine if you didn't have a safe space or were not allowed to isolate. Imagine if you were striving to leave a life of exploitation and gain financial independence, but you lost your conventional job or couldn't make rent or couldn't feed your children. What if you felt you had no other option but to return to old ways? Imagine feeling disenfranchised, lesser than, the toll that may take on your mental health and opportunity. These are the stark realities facing our members. Within the very first week of the COVID-19 crisis hitting Dallas, 23 of our women lost their jobs, had hours cut, or were unable to work their shifts. New Friends, New Life has been a critical lifeline of support. Our members need us, and we need you. We need your voice. Spread awareness of this issue and its prevalence. We need your representation. Make connections with us to your networks and vocations so that we can affect change within the legal and business communities. We need your opportunities. Become an employment partner and hire our members. We work hand in hand so that this partnership is as beneficial to you and your company as it is to our survivors. We've had incredible success with this revamped program, and we're looking to expand. And we need your dollars. Your support affords us to continue our transformative work. Times are tough, but if you can, please give so that our members can truly have new lives. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our very special guest, Adam LaRoche. Adam is a Gold Glove, Silver Slugger winning former Major League Baseball player who's now using his voice and his influence as an anti-sex trafficking activist. Stay tuned for this inspiring conversation with Adam, led by our moderator, Tyler Klutz.
And I am really excited about this next part. We are joined by 12-year MLB veteran Adam LaRoche, live via Zoom from his ranch in Kansas. Adam, thank you so much for joining us. Really excited to have a fellow professional athlete like yourself recognize a platform that you have and really being a champion for this issue. You're joining us from your ranch in Kansas, which I personally am jealous that you get to spend your time there. But thank you so much for taking the time to have this really important conversation with us. Sex trafficking can be a topic that men really feel ashamed of, but it's something that we really need to step up, take accountability for, because not only do we drive demand, it's important for us to step up to the plate, to use a baseball term, and really combat this issue. So I'm going to start this conversation off again. We want to thank you for joining us, but why do you think that it's so important for men to step up and combat this issue?
Yeah, Tyler, man, first of all, thanks for having me. I hate that I'm not down there in Dallas, doing this live, but virtual will have to work. So yeah, it's an honor to be on here. Man, that's a pretty deep question. And I don't know how many believers are out there watching, but one thought is that it's men that really started it, right? If we take this all the way back, I feel like we've been kind of the center of this as far as the problem and expanding and building on the problem. So I think in some ways it falls on us to correct that. But it is difficult. It's not comfortable to talk about. Typically, when you bring up trafficking, it leads into the prostitution side, which then leads into the strip clubs and the pornography. And, as dudes, that just, it kind of gets uncomfortable because I'm sorry, but I haven't met a guy yet that doesn't struggle with lust in some way, right? I mean, that's just, we live in a broken world, and that's human nature. So most of the time, those are conversations we try to kind of steer clear from. But when we do dive into it and start understanding the depth of the porn industry, I think once we start to understand that, it makes what we considered innocent pornography look just a little bit different. We start to understand there that this is not just what we're seeing, within the edges of this video camera, that there's a whole, dark underworld there that goes along with it. So to answer your question, I think it's absolutely critical for both men and women, but I think men in particular, it's our responsibility to fix something that we have kind of created.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I mean, you played in a sport that you spent a lot of time on the road, and guys, were gone a lot. And so, as you mentioned, every man struggles with lust, but you recognized this issue while you were still playing. Talk to us about how, you got involved with combating sex trafficking, and how you felt so compelled to be a light really in this dark industry.
Yeah, Tyler, man, I wish I would have recognized it a little earlier in my career because I wasn't introduced to this until I want to say probably 2013, 2014. Because prior to that, I could not have told you what the word trafficking meant. Like it was nowhere near on my radar or, list of priorities of things I wanted to dive into. And man, long story short, I had a teammate of mine at the time when we were in spring training, was good friends with a guy that ran a group called the Exodus Road. Matt was his name. And he's like, man, you guys, you really need to just come over here and see it live and come kind of insert yourselves in the middle of it and, see what God can do. And we did that. So as soon as that season was over, we took off, went over there for a trip, and, needless to say, it totally wrecked us. So I came home, flew around, met with as many organizations that would literally let me in the door, both government and non-government. And that's when I started to learn that this is not just a problem in some of these countries where we would assume it is a problem, and assume that it's acceptable and just flourishing. But I think you could argue that there's probably not a county in the states that is free of sex trafficking.
We all think this is somebody else's issue. This is too far for us to deal with. And yes, they may not have the resources for support or protection that the United States has, but it is everywhere. Talk to us about being a father and how that directly hit you in this trip in Southeast Asia when you saw these children that have been abducted or sold by their parents into the sex trafficking trade. Talk about how that hit you just as a man and a father.
So my daughter would have been probably 10 years old, maybe, when I took that first trip. So you can't help but think when we go over there and we're going into these brothels and doing some work over there, and you're seeing girls that are not much older than her, when you see that, it's wrong. And that there's a lot of evil surrounding that industry. You just start thinking about, well, what are her parents thinking? Are they involved? Do they think she's working at some hotel or some restaurant somewhere? So your mind starts going, man, what if that was my daughter? What would I do? Sometimes I think he's saying, why don't you go out and do something about it?
Yeah. No, I love that. And that brings me up to my next question is, obviously you're a man of faith. How has that, through your baseball career and into your mission now, whether it's business or service, how has that shaped your life as you have grown and matured?
I'm almost positive that I'm not in this space of counter trafficking if I didn't have that faith. I don't have all this in my background, right? I don't have a long history of military or law enforcement. At the beginning, it was really uncomfortable because it was totally outside of standing in a batter's box and, playing first base. And, I used to, when I would see these things, I used to ask God, like, why do you allow these things to happen? I think we ask all the time, right? When we see stuff, COVID, this virus, or stuff that happens with kids or our family members, and it's like, God, you obviously could stop this right now. Like, why do you allow this to happen? And I remember hearing a few years ago, and I really felt like I could hear him say, quit blaming me for everything. Like, why do you guys allow this to happen? How about you guys step in and do something? Again, like we talked about earlier, with a problem that you created. Praying is great, absolutely, but I'm convinced the only way we're going to get that faith is when we put ourselves in position where we have to rely on our faith, right? And if we're constantly sitting in our little protective bubbles, we're probably never going to experience that faith that we're praying for and that we're really wanting, for fear of what might happen, for fear of being uncomfortable.
I think the perfect testament to your faith specifically is you walked away from the game when you had some in the tank. You chose to follow a different path that you felt led to follow. Talk us through, though, that decision when you decided to leave baseball and what you felt your purpose was beyond the game, because God gave you a platform, to use for something much bigger than the game. And the game elevated your platform so you could reach people. But the maturity in your faith and conviction to step away at a time speaks so loudly to who you are as a man of God. But talk us through that decision.
Yeah, thanks, bud. Well, I can tell you that probably that first half of my career, I don't want to say I was in it for me, but I was serving me, right? I was playing the game for my family, for my team, for my stats, for my bank account, whatever it was. And I'm glad that it happened while I was still playing. I just had this transition at some point, probably the latter third of my career, that I started viewing it, like you said, as more of a platform. Why did he give me this? Why, of all these dudes that are way bigger, way faster, better than why am I, able to make a career out of this game and get paid way more than we should ever make to go hit a baseball? And so as I started to dive into that, I think priorities started to shift a little bit. And I'm sure having kids and them getting older and, some of those priorities and kind of all that coming together is what helped. The thing that happened my last year in 16 when I quit with Drake, I really think, I know it was a blessing, but I think it was also the thing that I needed to kind of put me over the top to dive more into this counter-sex trafficking work. Again, because I had just come off of a couple of trips that off season that really just wrecked me. And I remember going into spring training thinking, man, am I really going to go play a game with all this going on out there?
And for those that don't know the story, that maybe have been under a rock for the last few years, but your son used to be, and you used to call him the 26th man on the roster.
Yeah.
He used to be at the clubhouse with you out on the field. And then going into your last year, the White Sox said, no more policy change, can't come in. Correct?
Yeah. They did my second year there. They just had a change of policy for whatever reason. And, weren't going to allow that anymore for any of the kids. And that made the decision pretty easy to take it to the house.
Do you feel like, as you mentioned, coming into spring training that year, you were just kind of wrecked from some of the trips? Do you feel like that was God just making it very clear to you that, hey, I've got something bigger and more impactful than the game of baseball?
No question. And I didn't know it at the time, because you know how it is when you play and retire, you start to wonder, man, was this the right move? Am I doing this on my own? Is this really what God wants? Like, what are we doing? So there was a brief, literally a brief minute. I was like, maybe I screwed up. And that was gone so fast. I'm telling, like, literally overnight, it was made so clear, just the peace that came with it, and zero regret that came along with it, that made it evident that it was time.
Tyler went through retirement. It was a topic that was really important to me is understanding your purpose and what God's purpose for you is. And as professional athletes, not dissimilar to military, as they transition out, the people that struggle is the ones that don't realize God's purpose for them, and that there's something more to them than the game. Their identity is not wrapped up in whatever sport they play or whatever job they have, because that can be taken away at an instant or walked away from in an instant in your case. But I think it's a true testament to your faith to really trust him, and that he had something more for you, and understanding your identity is in Jesus Christ and not in whatever game that you're playing. Because that's hard for a lot of people, even people of faith. I mean, that was a real issue for me as I walked away, because I was known as Tyler Klutz, the football player. And when that goes away, it goes away quick.
Something changes there, doesn't it? I know, man. That's what we always talk about. I'm sure you guys did too, that if baseball is everything, if football is everything when you're in it, it's going to be rough, when you walk away. I'm out here on a ranch in Kansas now, and we get to host soldiers in quite a bit, just to bring them in, love on them, serve them. And I hear it from more and more guys that get out of the military. Something about when you lose that jersey, right? When you lose that uniform and you become a former guy instead of a current guy, if that was your world, it's going to hurt.
All right, so we hear the birds chirping in the background. Tell us a little bit about E3 Ranch and what you're doing there, and then more specifically, what the mission behind E3 Ranch is, and the foundation, and how you're giving back to veterans.
Yeah, man, I'll give you the really short version, because I know we don't have a ton of time.
We'll connect offline for all the details, man. I'm eating up what you're doing, man. That's like beard is dream number 1. E3 Ranch is dream number 2.
Man, this is my wife's family farms. This goes back, I think, 6 generations. I always joke that I asked her out because she had like the best deer hunting ground around. And I knew that was my end to get out here on this farm. Little did I know that, 25 years later, we'd be living out here. Yes, we have an E3 meat company on the for-profit side. And we have a couple of restaurants, one up in Steamboat and one in Nashville, E3 chop houses that just kind of go along with that. But that all started with, I wanted to raise some cattle, all natural, and not do any hormones, antibiotics, steroids. And I really screwed up because I sent it out to a couple of teammates. I sent them quarters of beef, and man, the phone calls start coming in. From there, one day we're like, you know what, we need to get a website or hire somebody to do something. And it's just kind of evolved into a pretty cool project. And I say all that because the best part for me, all of that is what helps fund our foundation. So that's the coolest piece with our team is to be able to always keep kind of that focus of this is why we're doing, this is why we want the restaurants to kill it and the meat company, all these things to kill it, because that's pouring into our foundation, which is kind of where I'm focused at. E3 Ranch Foundation, the two sides there are, we bring soldiers in, and we'll do that a few times a year. Again, just a way to serve those guys, give them a break. A lot of times it'll be for a hunt or a fishing trip or shooting competitions, whatever, just man stuff out on the ranch. And then we're a supporting organization for quite a few different counter-sex trafficking groups that are in this fight. And that's been really neat because I've been able to get out and go boots on the ground with all the ones that we're involved with and actually go work with them and learn from them.
That's awesome. And this is a plug for fundraising later on this morning, but nothing wrong with making money. It's just using God's blessings to pass through you onto others and serve other people.
That's exactly right. I don't feel guilty about that.
That's awesome. All right. So you spent 12 years in the league. You've been in a lot of clubhouses. You have any favorite / funny memories that stand out to you?
If the regular world knew what went on in a clubhouse or a locker room, I mean, it's totally immature. So the funny stuff is literally every few minutes there's something. On the serious side, one really cool story that I haven't got to tell a whole lot is I was at bat in Minnesota, and I was facing a good friend of mine named Blaine Boyer, who I now get to work in this counter trafficking space with. He was pitching, and then a good friend of mine was catching, and then another friend of mine was the umpire. So we had this, so I walk up to the plate, and I hadn't faced Blaine in a long time, and I remember tapping home plate, and I said it out loud, "Please God, let me hit a home run right here." And so the catcher starts laughing, the umpire's laughing. Well, I take one swing. I take basically 3 pitches right down the middle. Swung through one of them, promptly punched out, walked back to the dugout on 3 pitches. And I sit down, I set my helmet down, put my bat in the rack, and one of my teammates at the time comes up and sits behind me. He goes, "Dude," and he was a younger guy. I mean, I was a veteran at the time, and he was younger. And he sat down and he goes, "Man, what's going on with you?" And I got defensive because I was thinking, that takes some guts. Like, right after a punch out, you're going to come up. And I thought he was basically, why do you suck so bad right now? Which I did. I was probably 0 for my last 30. And so I looked at him and he goes, no, I'm not, I don't mean like, why do you suck? I mean, why do you never get mad when you strike out or when like things don't go well or whatever? And there was 2 outs at the time. So I was like, man, I'm glad you asked. And so I briefly explained to him how baseball is not everything for me. Like this, I'm not going to allow this game to define who I am and let it control my emotions and how I treat people and family life and all that. So fast forward, it ended up, it was either later that evening, like after the game or the next day, I had this incredible conversation about the Lord with him. And then looking back, like still gives me goosebumps thinking about it. That is the ultimate answer to prayer, right? Like a home run to God is not me putting a ball in the seats. I mean, that was a home run. Literally that strikeout off my good friend led to this conversation of this guy that had obviously been watching me throughout the year. It was just a reminder that sometimes those answers, the things we pray for get answered way different than we ever want them to or expect them to, or that's one of my coolest stories as a player, just to be able to look back and see how that played out.
I want to be respectful of your time, but we can't thank you enough for being a part of this breakfast this morning, reaching the men and some women here in Dallas that are standing up for her and fighting for her because, like you said, we drive the problem. but we can also drive the solution. So thank you so much, man, for taking some time and joining us and all the work that you're doing. Keep it up.
Yeah, buddy. Thank you, man. If I could just say one more thing, I don't ever want people to take this like, okay, all of us are supposed to dive into counter sex trafficking. Absolutely not. Do I think it's one of the most horrific things that we do, that humans do to other humans? Absolutely. So I would just say if this is one of those things where you just don't feel pulled, then go with your heart and your gut on that. But on the other hand, if we sit around and wait for everything to be perfect and wait for the perfect opportunity, and when, you know, our finances are right and our kids have graduated from school and all these things add up before we then jump into our mission, I can almost guarantee it's never going to happen, because the timing's never perfect. At some point we got to, you know, just dive in.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well said, man. Thank you so much, man. Enjoy that ranch. Family.
Yeah, buddy. That was a blast, man. Good talking with you.
And now I'd like to introduce the Men's Advocacy Group liaison, our one and only Matt Osborne, to close us out.
Tyler and I want to extend a special thank you to Adam for sharing his passion and commitment to ending human trafficking, and for taking a stand for her, along with the almost 100 members of MAG. Before we close today, I want to remind you to consider joining this group of men so that we can continue supporting the women and girls of New Friends, New Life. And one of the ways we do this is by shifting the conversation that we're having with the young boys in our community. Through our Man Kindness Project, which is led by our Men's Advocacy Group, more than 850 boys this year alone have learned the importance of their words and actions towards women and girls. By signing up as a member or donating today, we will be able to share the Man Kindness Project with many more boys and young men, an important step in ending exploitation and trafficking in our communities. And remember, your gift directly benefits the nearly 400 women and girls New Friends, New Life will serve this year. You can also purchase raffle tickets online before Tuesday, July 28th at noon Central Daylight Time. We'll leave you with this 60-second video on the Man Kindness Project and ask you to think of connections you might have with schools, churches, and young men's service leagues where we might be able to share this important curriculum. We also leave you with our deepest thanks for joining us today.
Did you know that sex trafficking is a $99 million crime in Dallas alone?
More than 300,000 people are victims of human trafficking in Texas, including nearly 80,000 teens and children. There are an estimated 400 trafficked teens in our streets of Dallas every night. Once we know the statistics, what we do or fail to do sends a direct message to everyone exactly who we are and what we're about.
New Friends, New Life's Men's Advocacy Group consists of men who mobilize to influence the end of human trafficking in our city.
Men absolutely have to take responsibility for the issue of human trafficking, and specifically sex trafficking, because the male demographic is what funds it.
I'm especially proud just to see the MAG board involved in trying to get the education into the schools with the kids and the high school students and junior high school students to mentor young boys.
Today, more and more schools and boys' organizations are embracing the Man Kindness Project for education and a candid dialogue about true masculinity and the importance of boys respecting girls and women. Young men who complete the program learn about the power of their words and how thoughts influence actions and behaviors. Examine the ties between respect for women and girls and the socialization of human trafficking and exploitation, and identify solutions in their school and communities that demonstrate positive, healthy attitudes toward girls and women, and ultimately themselves.
Redefining the narrative that this is what real manhood is. That is the major step in creating a society that's safe for all people. As men, we must be proactive in doing that.
I stand for her.
I stand for her.
I stand for her.
For more information on how you can bring the Man Kindness Project to your school or organization, email mag@newfriendsnewlife.org or call 214-965-0935.
At Amwins, we're not just placing risks. We're staying ahead of changes to keep clients prepared. We're not just plugging and placing. We are forging relationships that last. We're not just planning for today. We're planning for 150 years from now. Our care, foresight, and commitment to our clients means we are more than just a partner. We are on your team.